want to emphasize, like I said before, it's not a typical budget year, experiencing things like a recession, inflation at a 40-year high, and coming off of CARES funding for transit.
I love that. That's Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Turgeon in a budget hearing last week. Jefferson City Council, again, and I love that because I think and I don't think that's her intent, but she drives home the point. See, this is how things on a national level affect us. She's talking about the city budget and wanting to get employees in the city of Jefferson City, wants to get them a raise. And you heard her say it. Inflation is at a 40-year high. This is how this kicks us in the groin right here in mid-Missouri.
Yeah, it's so difficult for local elected officials. I mean, imagine they went through COVID and something unprecedented, and now we're in an unprecedented time with inflation and with respect to everything else. And so, Ashland will soon face a budget process, and I know it's going to be difficult. And, a lot of folks are flush with cash. And so you're trying to, how do we spend this money responsibly, but prepare for the fact that we might be, headed into a recession and might be stuck with this inflation for quite some time. It's a real challenge.
What's the budget in the city of Ashland?
I don't know off the top of my head.
City of Columbia, well over $100 million. Jefferson City, I think 75 million, something like that. And we think about some of our smaller burgs around here like Ashland. So last night, City Council meeting, Jefferson City. Marsh, in your mind, what was a highlight or two there? Yeah. Well, and as I was thinking about this, I was like, when was the last time, which is great, up to 10 hours, but I'm trying to think, when was the last time I've ever had to park in a downtown setting for 10 hours? And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, last time I was in court.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It does affect lawyers. I've had my meter run out when I was in a court proceeding and got a ticket.
But see, counsel, we were on the opposite ends of the court hearing. What were you hearing, John? Like some of the biggest opposition to it? Was it the confusion, or were there people that are just like, man, we just flat out, we don't like the new stuff. What was the opposition from folks regarding the parking rates?
Yeah, last I checked, they were sitting on about like $5 million for this parking garage and had been for a while. And I hear so much frustration because, yeah, everything that goes into those meters goes into that fund, but no one can agree what to do with the fund. And I think it was last year, they had a big committee, lots of meetings, and they still couldn't they didn't really have a consensus. John, I told Branden, parking in downtown is kind of like roll carts up in Columbia. It's like just that issue. It's just that and I guess the conference center, but that's just an issue that seems like it's hard to come to a consensus on.
And we're kind of thankful for it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a whole lot to talk about, would we? Roll cars and parking spots. One of the things I did hear, John, on KOMU last night, they were chatting with Trevor Dancer. He's lead pastor at First United Methodist Church. And kind of, I think, one of the reasons, they're kind of leery. Let's be careful about our parking.
We did not want people to have to come here and then have to pay even more parking just to receive services and whatever else we provide here. And so we wanted to help kind of protect the low-income people that visit downtown Jeff City, at least our block.
So you're saying, hey, people that come here and get help from our church, food, whatever it is, because things are, as Carrie Turgeon said, the inflation, 40-year high, things we have never seen before. We don't want you to have to come down here and get some services, but then have to pay extra for parking. And think about that for a second. Going back to Carrie Turgeon's comments last week, what she said regarding the budget, she and you heard her words, 40-year inflation. And John, who, by the way, you look stunningly handsome today, man. I'm
What a bromance.
I feel like, you know how big of a golfer I am? Not
at all, right?
At all. I feel like, and this is not intentional, but I feel like I'm dressed to go golfing today.
It's the shorts. It's the shorts, I think.
The shorts? Yeah, wherever it is you're golfing today, rain is going to be a big issue today. By the way, you can watch the show on YouTube. Go to the Wake Up Mid-Missouri channel on YouTube. This is John Marsh. How you doing today, bud? Good. And soggy. By the way, I guess up to about 2 inches of rain around here by the time we get done today.
And the good news is that it pushed that construction project on the interchange off for a day. Is that right? Some good news for your Tuesday.
I can't wait. No, I drove through Montauk and Cole County on my way into work this morning, and the rain was very heavy. So I don't know if we're experiencing any of that anymore, but you might just give yourself a couple extra minutes this morning on your way into work.
Like what MoDOT's going to do. You're going to have to, if you're trying to get from, let's say, Columbia or Ashland into Jefferson City, you're going to have to go via Sedalia and come back. That's almost what it's like. There's Stephanie Bell. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hannah is joining us too. Producer Hannah is here.
Good morning.
And Brian Houseworthy is running around, especially keeping tabs on weather. So as I understand it here in mid-Missouri, no warnings, no flood warnings, watches. There is nothing like that right now immediately in this area, but we are expecting up to 2 inches of rain today, and then the weather is going to change. This was huge news. My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. If there's something that we can do for you, 573-874-9390, 573-874-9390. Do you find any, do you go, whew, they fixed that parking problem? Is that your reaction? You go, woo, we're done with that issue.
From last night? No, but I did see, because the part that I was most excited about was they're thinking about getting an app to where I don't have to spend my one Aldi quarter on the meter.
Not the Aldi quarter.
I know. And it's not in the bill, and that was kind of frustrating, but they did say last night, hey, we can just do that through a contract with the city administrator. So the funds that we are planning to use the extra funds for an app that you can pay. And I like that.
We had somebody text it. We got into discussion yesterday here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri regarding the Aldi quarters. Now, I'm new to Aldi's because, again, inflation, we've not seen anything like this in 40 years. Now, some perspective on the national level, and we see how it's affecting us here locally, how it's affecting you. Look what you've been paying for gas prices. Look at all what you've been paying for groceries. To give you some perspective, again, on this, Stephanie Bell you've never seen anything like this in your lifetime, 40-year highs.
Correct.
And that's a humble brag to say Stephanie Bell is not even 40 years old. That's what Hannah, the producer, our 22-year-old ag grad from Mizzou, she's never seen anything like this.
I've never seen anything like this, and I'm not real excited about ever having to see it again.
It's not fun. It's not like you go, oh, yeah, the great recession, the great inflation of 2022 following Biden taking office. So we can see here how some of these things are affecting us right here in mid-Missouri. By the way, and then City of Columbia council meeting last night. They had a Citizen Police Review Board, and it's especially one. There's a person by the name of December Harmon, and what she has done there is just dastardly. It's in her mind, in my opinion, she's just out to get the police. It's not a Citizen Police Review Board. It's her excuse to go out and get people. Third person this summer, like within the past 60, 70 days, third person said, you know what? I'm out. This is a load. I'm just not doing this anymore. So we're going to have some highlights from that. As a matter of fact, you got to hear this because homelessness, what taxpayer dollars are going for in Columbia. City Councilman from Columbia, Matt Pitzer, is going to be joining us at 7:35 this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So we see the rain and what's happening there, and the parking. A lot of things happening here as it relates to inflation. Police, Nancy Pelosi said the other day, and this, I think, ties in. Jefferson City Police are reminding us, hey, a lot of parochial schools are back in today. I think public schools start next week. So they're saying, be careful. You're going to start to see more and more kids out there on the streets. But I love, we talk about the hypocrisy, and these aren't just talking points. This is real stuff. Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat, obviously, Speaker of the House, California, and you know, progressives, defund the police, like we're seeing. We've seen it try to happen in some cities here in mid-Missouri, namely Columbia. We see this Citizens Police Review Board basically falling apart in front of our eyes, and progressives like Pelosi saying things like this.
Caucus with our members where we had a presentation on enhanced security for members and their staff and families.
Enhanced security, what is it? Well, for us, we want enhanced law enforcement. That's hypocritical, okay? So if you're new to and I don't want to say we're conservative talk radio, but if you're a younger listener, because we do have a lot of newer listeners, a lot of younger listeners, people are trying to, okay, let me figure this stuff out.
It's talk radio-ish.
Ish. Love that. But that's hypocritical. You have this party, defund the police, cops are evil, which is incredible BS. But when you hear somebody say, whether you read it on a website or you watch it on TV, and somebody says, hey, progressives, Democrats, they're hypocritical, that is a concrete example of the hypocrisy. It's not just people complaining. These are real-life things. So welcome into it, and welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up about 5 minutes from now, we're going to be doing the daily D.C. rundown with Stephanie Bell. What's front and center for us? I already know the answer to that.
Well, when you can't get the guy you want, you start trying to get his friends.
focus has been against one individual, whether she has information or not, instead of focusing on her district itself. And I think tomorrow night we'll answer that question. It's not my question to answer. It's the constituents.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, not the only one. I wonder, when was the last time the state of Wyoming got this much attention? That's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Cheney is bracing for a loss. I guess somebody that supports her in their state house said, I'm hopeful the polling numbers are wrong. I checked Real Clear Politics. They have her opponent up plus 25. So.
Yesterday, Stephanie, we were thumbing through the Casper, Wyoming Tribune newspaper, and it was a poll, the newspaper, one of the newspapers, one of the three in the state of Wyoming. Wyoming, by the way, very lovely. The western part of the state, stunning.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. But their polling was, it's bad.
It is bad. Well, today in D.C., Joe Biden is expected to sign into law can we name it something else? The quote-unquote Inflation Reduction Act.
Because it doesn't, you know what it doesn't do?
It doesn't do anything with respect to inflation. It will be the most significant investment in climate change. It has some prescription drug stuff in there. It's got healthcare subsidies in there. That's a lot of what we've talked about. One thing that I think people have overlooked is it does impose a new 1% excise tax on the purchases of their own share on company shares. So, a lot of companies, they buy back their own stocks, and it's going to kind of penalize that practice, which has become really popular, especially over the last couple of years.
And here's the other thing I think, I'm not a corporation. I don't make $1 billion a year. I ain't got nothing to worry about. Think about the number of corporations here in the Show Me state that are going to be affected by these billion-dollar corporations, okay? And then the jobs they create. Let's take a beer maker. I don't know, in St. Louis or something like that. And distributors. We look at the local distributors we have around here, and Nauser and Shepherd's and all these local distributors. They pay more for the beer because Budweiser's having to pay more for their beer because of what Joe did. And then when they deliver to the stores have to pay more for your beer. So guess who ends up paying more for that beer because of Joe Biden?
Me. And you. Unfortunately.
We all do. That's how it works.
Also, so Rudy Giuliani yesterday found out he was the target of an investigation in Georgia about interference in the 2020 election. I don't think a huge surprise. I mean, they're after Trump. They're after anyone associated with Trump. They're after anyone associated with anything to do with 2020. So he, I guess, has to show up. I think he's going to appear before the grand jury supposedly today or Wednesday to testify. So, but it was yesterday it broke that he was the actual target of the investigation. Also, we got news with respect to the raid. We talked to our good friend Bekesha. He said
Right.
And he wanted to unseal the affidavit. He filed the motion last week. The government had to respond by yesterday at 5 p.m. They did. Unsurprisingly, they said, we're not giving you anything else. They don't want to unseal the documents.
So, and again, I'm confused here. That's why I rely on people like you at 573-874-9390 from the get-go of this, what a lot of the pundits, progressive pundits, it wasn't a raid. It wasn't that. It was a raid. But didn't just days ago Merrick Garland, I thought, was talking about openness and transparency. My goodness. Christopher Arps, some big things happening on a state level here in Missouri regarding politics in the State House. He's going to be joining us 5 minutes from now on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
Chris.
When it comes to Missouri politics,
CHRIS.
and how they affect you,
CHRIS.
me and Stephanie Bell and producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth, and John Marsh. Very few people are better at it than Christopher Arps, Missouri-based Politico, talking head, whatever you want to call him. Are you cool with the phrase talking head?
I've been called worse, Branden. Good morning and congratulations. How are you?
We are good. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. And you've been called worse.
Called something else, head.
On this very show, actually, right here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Let me ask you this. By the way, we have State Senator Caleb Rowden, and this is important. State Senator Caleb Rowden is going to be here at 8:10. This is as it relates to the Missouri Senate's Conservative Caucus, and this is a big deal because it was kind of, you had the Republicans and then the uber conservative Republicans versus everybody else. And we saw the effects of that when it came to redistricting. We did reach out to Rick Bratton. He just recently lost that 4th Congressional District primary. We reached out to him, no response. We'd like for him to come here on the show and get his thoughts from the inside. We thought, well, let's talk with State Senator Caleb Rowden, who wields a lot of power, and he wields a lot of power in the Capitol building, and he's from right here in mid-Missouri. I hope you'll join us. He is here at 8:10. Want to get his thoughts. What was your immediate reaction to this, Chris?
Well, my immediate reaction, I received the test, as I was kind of shocked. You know, we've been hearing since the primary elections when it's thought that they were going to add 3 more members to the Conservative Caucus, that they were going to be even stronger and we're going to be even louder next session, and then we get the surprise announcement that they have disbanded the caucus. I think the headlines that folks are saying that this is an olive branch to leadership is correct. I think they are looking for new leadership. I think they want to get rid of Senator Rowden, and this is a step to doing that. I don't know if it'll work. You know, I've been in politics a while, and people in politics have very long memories and don't forget slights. So it'll be interesting to see if this olive branch is taken up.
So here's the email press release, Missouri, and here's the headline of the press release. Missouri Senate Conservative Caucus disbands, calls for peace and unity under single Republican banner. And Stephanie Bell here has some interesting thoughts. But my mission, and listen, I can be cynical. I can be that cranky 51-year-old chubby balding guy that always, everybody's got an ulterior motive. That's my mindset a lot of times. But my first take is, I don't know if I believe this. I think this is an end around. I think there's something. It's not on the up and up. There's a good chance I'm wrong, but that's why we wanted somebody like Mr. Rick Bratton, who was part of this Conservative Caucus that really held up a lot of things, especially this legislative session. And so, we saw the news was just, hammered with this stuff.
Their new name, what is the Prince name? They're going to be the members formerly known as the Conservative Caucus, right? Because they're still going to vote.
It's a little long.
They're still, I suspect these folks are still going to vote together on most issues, and they're going to be aligned. But yeah, I mean, you've got the 3 camps, and at this point, it's really a numbers game. I think, what I've seen reported is that, you've got, I think, 10 Democrats, 9 people they thought were going to be in the Conservative Caucus, and then 15 Republicans kind of in the middle. And so, it could affect leadership races depending on where all of those factions kind of align. And I do think it has to do with the leadership elections more than anything.
And I think also they're trying to say, even if they are as rebellious as they were last session, I think with this move, they'll be able to say, hey, we tried. We passed out an olive branch early. It was kind of rejected, so we have to go back to the tactics that we did last session with more members.
And it was interesting because you had some of these folks that were in, especially kind of outside of the St. Louis area, that were going to be affected by redistricting. It could have really helped them. You've got State Senator Mike Moon, who's got, some people might consider him cutting the head off a chicken and putting a video out there. Some people might think that's weird. That's Mother Nature when it comes to meat and some chicken breasts, right? So they had some of that, and their membership never really grew. And I hope they're right, but I want to tell you a story that I think shows at least the passion of this group. When this stuff was all going on, when it was getting really heated, we're talking spring of 2022, like April, May, we had one of the members of the Conservative Caucus called my office one day. Seldomly do I take phone calls on my office line. I put it through to voicemail because usually it's Christopher Arps and I don't want to talk to him. So I put it through to my I put it through to my voice. Anyhow, happened to take a call, and it was a representative of one of these state senators wanting time to come on the show. Now, we love chatting with out-of-district lawmakers, because out-of-district lawmakers here, whether we're in Callaway County or Cole County, Boone County, there's things they're doing that can affect us. And so we don't mind doing that. But they wanted to come on, and they had no purpose. And I'll tell you, it was a weird conversation because they were adamant about coming on. I said, I know what you're doing. You're trying to come here and pee in Caleb Rowden's front yard, aren't you? That's what you're trying. No. It was just one of the strangest things. But I think it spoke to the passion of the members of the Conservative Caucus.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know that they are very serious about what they stand for. I agree with a lot of the things that they are advocating for. I think the problem was that a lot of people felt that what they were doing wasn't just trying to promote good policy and get good policy passed, that it was also for future political races and grandstanding and for heightening profiles. I think that was a knock on a lot of the Conservative Caucus's antics, for lack of a better word, last year. I also, and I said this on your show and on my show, I did not agree with a 7-1 map. Even though we had the numbers to do that, I don't think that it was the right thing to do. Look, African Americans in Kansas City, I'll always believe this and will always say this, should have their own representative, whether I agree with the political philosophy of the community. And I just thought taking away that district from them was wrong, even though we had the numbers to do it. That's one thing I majorly disagree with them about, and some of their tactics. But their overall agenda, I agreed with.
Well, it's Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. By the way, he's got a website. You also see him on Newsmax TV all the time. Lives here in Missouri. He's been hanging out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri for several years now. But I think a 7-1 map. How we wanted a 12-0 map, man. We all wanted that. And here's where I kind of start to fall apart from some of this stuff, or start to step away from some of these people. I'm like, okay, just be realistic. And it was not real. And for one of the things, that's one of the things I got frustrated by. Yeah, we all want this. Hell, we want the 8-0. We want the 27-0 map, but it was just not realistic. And that's the thing. Because listen, I get it. You push whatever it is your beliefs are. But there comes a point you just have to have some common sense and be realistic. And we lacked a lot of that, in my opinion, in the session last year. Yeah. Oh, you got something? You were going to say something. No, well, my next question was going to be, as it relates to, we talk about some of these races. We're seeing what's happening on a national level today with Liz Cheney. Very likely, Stephanie and I were thumbing through the Casper, Wyoming newspaper. Their polling. This wasn't Fox polling. It wasn't like Trafalgar polling. This was local polling in Wyoming, and it's Wyoming. It doesn't even have 1 million residents. So in Wyoming, it's all local. It really is. So this was a local paper, and their polling was like, oh, my goodness. It's not going to be good today. But I'm wondering, as we start to look at the other races 3 months away from the primaries, there's an interesting race in St. Louis. We've mentioned this guy's name before. He got the Republican nomination. He's running against Cori Bush. Tell us about this guy, because I think it's a fascinating story for us to hear about this guy in mid-Missouri here.
Yeah, Andrew Jones is his name. He won the Republican nomination to run against Cori Bush in the fall. He has ran for St. Louis mayor, and when he did that, he received the most votes that a Republican had received in many, many years. He is electric co-op utility executive across the river over in Illinois. Prior to that, he worked for Ameren for 20 years in management. He was involved in community development and those type of projects with Ameren and with this utility that he's with currently now. I think he is a fresh alternative to Cori Bush. He is a conservative, has all the values that we love, and he is an African American who I think is the real face of the Republican Party, especially when it comes to African Americans. My wife is his campaign manager. She's working hard for him, and we're going to give it a shot. You never know. Cori Bush is very, very vulnerable. She is for defunding the police. She's even for defunding the Pentagon, which, of course, Branden, you're from St. Louis. You know, we have Boeing here, and we build F-18s and F-16s and missiles, and she wants to basically put those people out of jobs. So Andrew Jones is running. He's a very good candidate, and can't wait to get him on your show maybe later so folks can hear from him.
He's been on before, and he tells this interesting story when he's doing door-to-door campaigning. He tells people in this district, he says, I'm a conservative Republican, and people are shocked because he's black. Well, you're black. And this shows you, this is coming from this guy. He's saying, I'm going out into these neighborhoods, and they're like, well, you can't be a Republican. And he's asking them why. And there's like, well, because you're black. And that highlights the problem of the hypocrisy of the progressive mindset, the stereotyping. We talk about the stereotyping and how it happens, from the progressives, from the left. These people have this mindset that were born and raised on this news. Well, you're black, you're supposed to be a Democrat. And this gentleman is showing the exact opposite. If you can hang out for a few more minutes, I'd like to get your Missouri take on the latest with this Trump raid yesterday, because I'm confused. I thought Merrick Garland said something like less than a week ago, and now it's the opposite. Can you hang with us for a few minutes?
Let's do it.
All right. Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. 5 minutes from now, his take on the latest. Hang with us for a few minutes.
The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter.
So the guy that got dissed for his SCOTUS nomination years ago, now he's getting his revenge by George. I thought the word from D.C. was regarding this whole raid at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, we're going to be open and transparent about it. And Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. You see him on Newsmax TV all the time. Missouri-based Politico here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And now they're kind of saying the opposite. Is it just me, or am I misreading stuff? That last week they were all for openness and transparency. And yes, well, there are some things that we can't tell you. Is it just me? Am I being a political hack here, towing the party line? What's going on here, man?
No, you're not at all. We were told that this was going to be transparent, that we were going to be learning the facts as the days come, and we have not seen that. We've seen Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Warner from Virginia. They both have asked that the affidavit be released so that the public can see it. There's also questions of the confidential or top secret information that was taken from Mar-a-Lago. Some of the senators and congressmen on the intelligence committees are asking to see that information. You know, they have the clearances to see them, so they should be able to see them. This is turning out to be a disaster for the Democrats. I honestly, in my assessment, I think that this was done in August on purpose. We know that August is the recess month. That's the month when the news is very, very slow. And they want all of August to be talking about Trump and Mar-a-Lago and top secret documents instead of what's in this bill that they have passed, the Inflation Reduction Act, which the CBO says does not reduce inflation. So they are lamenting that all of the oxygen is being taken out of the air by this Mar-a-Lago raid, but I think that's what they actually want, because they don't want to be talking about this legislation that they've passed that's really not popular with the American people.
CBO, Congressional Budget Office. This is a nonpartisan thing that's always in existence. Just in case you're newer to the show, you're a younger listener, CBO, Congressional Budget Office. They're the ones saying, yeah, this doesn't reduce inflation.
So we were looking at some polling yesterday, and essentially it said they think the raid is going to motivate folks to get out and vote here in 2020. And it also was talking about how the majority of people think that the raid was motivated by Trump's political enemies. Do you agree with that?
I do. You know, when this raid happened, and a lot of people were saying that this was going to help Trump, it was going to help with the base. I agreed with that. But others were saying that the independents and the moderates, that this would bring them into the Trump camp as well. And I wanted to wait until a poll came out. You know, moderates and independents don't particularly like Donald Trump, but they voted for him because of what he said he was going to do for the economy. We had a poll came out yesterday. I think it was Trafalgar that showed that 54% of independents believe that the raid on Mar-a-Lago was not correct. So that's very interesting numbers. This is going to increase his support with the base. But if it also does it with the independents and moderates, the Democrats could really be in trouble in November.
And I hope that this all holds true. I was chatting with a local candidate last night. His name is James Musgraves. He's running for the 50th District State Representative. The seat held very well and very firmly by Sarah Walsh over the past several years. He and I got into a discussion about, and I get it, primaries, but like less than 1 out of 4 voters in some counties here in mid-Missouri is like 1 out of every 5 voters showed up. I get it, primary, but I would think with this much interest with that Senate race with a name like Greitens and names like Schmidt and Hartzell, I just thought it would have been a better turnout. So I hope all this stuff is true, and then I hope that we show up to vote, because we had a very lengthy discussion about this last night at Shakespeare's Pizza. Like, okay, we know all this. Why are we not out voting? Why are we not out doing this?
I think in the general we will be out in voting in big numbers. I think inflation is going to remain high, probably higher. Gas prices have gone down the past month, but that's only because demand has gone down. We're entering into the winter season with heating oil. That's going to make the price of oil go up even more. So I think the winds are still at our back, but we can't be complacent, Branden.
Well, and here's what I love. Jefferson City Mayor in a meeting last week regarding the city of Jefferson City's budget, saying, and I'm not saying she was saying, here's why Biden, whatever. She was just saying, listen, inflation is at 40-year highs. This is why we have to do some things on a city level. ChristopherArps.com. Catch him. When are you on Newsmax next?
Thursday, 5:30, 6 and 7 on the Power Political panel.
ChristopherArps.com. We love you, man.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week. Congratulations.
I want to emphasize, like I said before, it's not a typical budget year, experiencing things like a recession, inflation at a 40-year high, and coming off of CARES funding for trans.
I love that. Carrie Turgeon, mayor in Jefferson City, and I don't think that's her intent, but there was a budget hearing last week in Jefferson City. And here's why that's important, because she says, here's why we are having to do what we are having to do. It is because inflation is at a 40-year high. And I think that's important because as people make their decisions coming up in these big midterms 3 months from now on a national level, Liz Cheney's probably getting the big old Wyoming cowboy boot today, I'm guessing, Steph.
That's what the polling is showing.
So it's important because we see how these things affect us on a local level, because how often do we hear, Marsh, you probably hear this, oh, Joe Biden's not the fault. It's not his fault. It's listed. All of these things have happened since those events of January 20th of 2021. And it is hitting us locally. You have a mayor of the largest city in Cole County, the mayor of the capital city in the state of Missouri, saying, here's why we're having to make some of these decisions. What did come up regarding the budget last night? All right. Okay. Yeah. So here's what you're hearing. We got to talk about this. Don't anybody get upset, but so in one of our studios, there's weather alerts, but kind of in the southern portion of our listening area.
And we can't turn the alerts off either.
Yeah. Nothing we can do about that, but let me do this. Let me sit here. Sorry. So that is not for us in this immediate area. Very likely, if you're hearing that kind of in the background, it's just live radio, man. It's not affecting us immediately.
And people are like angry, I'm sure, in their car right now. They're like, darn it, I was watching The Bachelor. I was really enjoying Wake Up Mid-Mo. And now the weatherman keyed in, and they're in the middle of my favorite show.
All right. John Marsh is here. John, you look good today, man. All right, now we're hearing all kinds of stuff. If we can get rid of that. Stephanie Bell is here.
I am. Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert, and being personal, I'm sorry about that. A little embarrassed, but, you got to put yourself out there sometimes, and that's what's going on. Let's move on to the next thing. Is it just me? And this is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Phone number 874-9390 off the text this morning in Jefferson City. In Columbia. So the Columbia bus, it's free. You don't have to pay to ride the bus. Well, it's not free for us. If you want to ride the bus, it's free for you. But you know who pays for it?
We all do.
We all do. So one of the things last night, they're saying, hey, we don't have big ridership. And Marsh, I want your help here on this because I'm not sure. Because I've asked Stephanie, sometimes I get it. You know what Joe Biden and I have in common? We're both stupid sometimes. And I own that. I'm not stupid, Hen. I'm just forgetful.
Yeah, you have brain farts. Just a couple more than the normal person.
Yeah. And I don't know if that, I don't know what it is. But so, John, I've asked Stephanie for help on this. This is Nick Foster. He's a city councilman in Columbia, and there, too, we're all talking about budget issues as we head into the fiscal new year coming up. But I'm not sure I quite understand Nick Foster. Really nice guy. He's been on this show before while he was campaigning for city office. I'm not quite sure what he's saying here.
That the city does not completely fund anyone to do anything. But the money that they do fund is leveraged against other opportunities for development of revenue from individuals, local businesses, foundations, and so forth. And one of the things that's helpful in that is to be able to point to the city's investment.
Okay. Honestly, is it just me, Steph?
That was a lot of words and not a lot of anything else.
What about you, Marsh? I see you got your head cocked a little bit like a puppy dog. Or more specifically,
we know that we really are quite behind in terms of maximizing our collective understanding about how we will engage on the technology of today and what we can quickly and easily predict will be the technology over the next decades. So to maintain our position as the United States of America on this issue, it is critical that we work together to understand where we are, to recognize and have the courage to...
All right, so which makes your head cock harder on that one? Which gives you more of that puppy dog kind of look, Steph?
Kamala, because she's reading off of something, and so somebody wrote that down, and then she read it and thought it was okay to say it. Was there any punctuation in that sentence, like any periods, any commas, or was it just a 1 minute long run-on sentence?
And how many, we were just talking about this recently, she had another staff person who was her speechwriter laughed. And the most shocking part about that was somebody was being paid to write that stuff.
I mean, paid a lot to make her look bad. I mean, you got to wonder. I mean, then I get all conspiracy theory, because I think there are people in that administration who want to make her look bad. But she is smart. She should know better. She should have read that and been like, I'm not saying this junk. I'm going to write, that person should be fired.
Well, I always go to politics aside, and all of us here have been, and John, been married for a long, long time. Kudos, by the way, bud. That's quite an accomplishment, said the guy, married twice with 2 very short marriages. But I liken it like this. To me, it's almost like the administration is, like, as a dude, when I didn't behave, when I wasn't a good dude, I didn't have the wherewithal to go to a female that I might be dating and say, hey, you know what? I'm just not into this anymore. Let's end this now before I do any more damage in your life. But I didn't have the wherewithal to do it. So you know what I would do, John? I would act a moron to the point that she would dump me. And I feel like that's what this administration is doing. Yeah, they're just like doing everything they can to be moronic and idiotic and just so out there. It's so obvious that, like, the voter's going to break up with you come 2024. And I'll tell you who else is realizing this kind of stuff. Representative Jamal Bowman. He's Democrat representative from the state of New York. He's on CNN. Stephanie, if you're a Democrat and I ask you, do you support Joe running in 2024? The answer is supposed to be...
You stand in line and you say, yes, I do.
Jamal Bowman?
Congressman, do you want him to run again?
Well, I want us to keep winning as Democrats right now.
That's a no. That's like when you ask Branden, hey, do you want to do this thing on the weekend? And he's like, I'll think about it. That's that's a no.
That's what we would call a hard pass, Branden.
So...
Exactly. I mean, something is going on. And she was smart. I mean, she held some pretty high positions. She should be able to read that speech and know this is garbage And maybe the point is she doesn't want to say anything because she doesn't want to, pigeonhole herself, because she's certainly got a lot of words, but she's doing, a dance to say nothing at all. And maybe that's her strategy. Maybe she thinks that's the smart strategy. I think it's hurting her.
Here's my other take. And Marsh, I think you and I will say that Anchorman, one of the greatest comedic movies as it relates to news media that ever was. And there's a whole bunch of funny movies about news media, right? You stay classy. But there's a scene, if you're not familiar with Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, stars Will Ferrell, Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, people like that. David Koechner's in the movie. But Ron Burgundy is the 70s era San Diego TV anchor and totally into himself, but really stupid. And the thing was, you put anything on the tele, and I do mean anything, on the teleprompter, and he would read it. I'm wondering if somebody's Ron Burgundying these people in the White House, man.
I mean, to be fair, Branden, you kind of do the same thing when we get listener text messages at 874-9390. You're really bad about reading a text before you screen it internally, and sometimes our listeners send us, dirty jokes and stuff, and you attempt to read that on air.
And I think that's folks here in mid-Missouri. They're in on the joke. They know that, not only is Branden Rathert like Joe Biden, he's like Ron Burgundy. He'll read anything in these texts at 573-874-9390. And this is the beautiful thing, I think, with you listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, is people know that. And so they try to sneak that stuff by us. Like, hey, have you heard about this guy on this radio station here in mid-Missouri? He reads text, doesn't proofread them, so let's sneak some stuff on there.
I wish I had $1 for every time you've been halfway through reading a text out loud and you go, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that.
I'm Branden Rathert. Anything on the teleprompter coming up. We're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25-ish. Then also 7:35, City Councilman in Columbia, Matt Pitzer, going to drop by for about 2 or 3 minutes. One of the things they covered last night in the city of Columbia, homelessness, money there, money everywhere. And so what happens if, because there's a lot of homeless issues in Columbia. And if they run out of services, what have you, where are they going to go? Ashland, Sturgeon, Jefferson City. With something we'll cover coming up 7:35 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up 5 minutes from now. What's hot with Hannah? What do you got?
It's the most wonderful time of the year, and it comes earlier and earlier every year.
for the inflation going up are now giving President Biden all the credit for inflation going down. So we're moving things in the right direction already.
Yeah, and what parts of the bill do you think will quickly work on that specifically?
Next question.
Oh, God. So Jamie Raskin, he's a Democratic representative from the state of Maryland. If you're a Democrat, whatever, we're not poking fun at you. We're just welcome. We realize here, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, we have a lot of new listeners, and especially I'm fascinated by these younger listeners that we've been getting because they're like, hey, how does this work? Okay, when you talk about this Inflation Reduction Act, how does this affect me? We're seeing how it affects some of our local cities. But, yeah, and I'm paying more for gas and I'm paying more for my Progressive soup at the grocery store. But how is it affecting me? And that's one of the things that we've tried to do is explain this stuff. So the Inflation Reduction Act, guess what it doesn't do?
Reduces inflation.
Doesn't reduce inflation. That's not us saying that. That is a point of fact that you can GTS later. Google that stuff. Congressional Budget Office is a nonpartisan office. They have said the Inflation Reduction Act does not reduce inflation, okay? So it's just basically, it's a line. So you can see how these politicians do. And I want to play this one more time before we sneak into What's Hot with Hannah. Jamie Raskin, Democrat, he carries some weight, by the way. He's got name recognition. He's asked flat out by a journalist, say, okay, tell me what part of this reduces inflation, and the guy cannot answer the question. It's not that he can't, he won't, because he knows it's a lie.
The right direction already.
Yeah, and what parts of the bill do you think will quickly work on that specifically?
Next question.
What's that Ariana Grande song? Thank you, next.
Yes.
Doesn't know. Not even. I almost would have rather you say, I don't know.
Or slammed the car door. Who was that? Just right in your face.
Elizabeth Warren. Nope. Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:28.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Now, I said earlier that it's almost the greatest, like the best time of the year.
Oh, I know what it is, and I don't know for sure.
What do you think I'm talking about?
Pumpkin spice season.
Yes! Pumpkin spice season is slowly trickling in, even though it's still technically summer.
By the way, my enthusiasm is knowing what it was. It's not that it's pumpkin spice season. I want to be clear since you and I are new friends here.
Well, in pumpkin spice, is like the flavor of fall. And just like with the holidays later in the year, they kind of seem to be celebrated early and earlier. Stores come out with decorations and things like that earlier and earlier every year. So why not bring pumpkin spice in a little bit earlier every year? I'm here for it. And basically, a lot of brands are already releasing, what they're going to be releasing for pumpkin spice season. And it's a lot of, the normal coffees and cookies. Oreo is bringing back their golden Oreo with a pumpkin spice flavored filling. That sounds really good. One that doesn't sound really good, though, is Cup of Noodles is doing a pumpkin spice flavored noodle. And that sounds terrible.
I will give you $1 if you go. Let's say you go to the big truck stop there at 70 in Fulton, there, Kingdom City. Go up to that counter, get you a cup of coffee where all the truckers hang out. Ask for some coffee with some pumpkin spice in it. I'll give you $1 if you do it. Homelessness in mid-Missouri 5 minutes from now.
Frankly, Donald Trump and his supporters have become quite creepy.
You know, Hillary Clinton got lambasted several years ago. Listen, you want to talk about your political opponents and stuff like that? That's fine. But when you start going after supporters of whoever, for example, let's say you supported Joe Biden, I wouldn't call you stupid, idiotic, moronic, whatever. I'm not going to call you that if you voted for Biden. I don't call you the Biden supporters that. You might call the president or whoever. Pick your elected leader here that I don't like. And so when Hillary Clinton called me a deplorable, I got a little triggered.
Are you triggered by creepy?
So creepy. So here's the thing that...
Frankly, Donald Trump and his supporters have become quite creepy.
Here's what creeps me out. That's a Republican.
What?
Adam Kissinger. People try to, again, I want to go back to real quick. We're going to visit with City Councilman in Columbia, Matt Pitzer, and then Marcia's going to pop in. We're going to be talking about homelessness, kind of more as a regional thing. Back to our conversation. People know when you text us at 573-874-9390, we respond to all of the texts.
We're trying.
We respond at least on air, but we try to, heck, you're sitting there in your car texting us, which, by the way, don't text and drive because nobody does it as good as I do. We respond, but people know they can sneak that stuff in, though, because I'll read the stuff without pre-reading it. And so sometimes when we get our audio, people like to misspell Adam Kinzinger's last name, because knowing I will read the Republican representative from the state of Illinois' name, I will read it wrong. Welcome into the show.
My favorite part is when they call us dirty names that conservatives like to hustle and make money and are capitalists. So every single time they call us deplorables or ultra MAGA or whatever, the next day there are T-shirts out and we're just making bank on the fun names and capitalism. Maybe.
And that's why Stephanie Bell is here. Mr. Brian Houseworth joining us too.
Good to see you. Good morning.
Producer Hannah is soaking up the pumpkin spice, and the studio smells disgusting, frankly.
What a party pooper.
I know.
I'm just trying to live my best life over here.
John Marsh is here too.
Apparently, I did trigger a lot of people by saying Kamala Harris was somewhat smart. Rick says Harris makes Dan Quayle look like a Nobel laureate. So anyway, she did fail the bar exam on first try. But she's smarter than what she's saying in those speeches, was my point.
So I've never failed the bar exam.
Well, you got her there.
By the way, so I'm one up. I'm not as smart as Joe Biden because I got the forgetful brain, but I've never failed the bar exam. Kamala Harris can't say that.
Well, and on a slightly more serious note, it was kind of a little bit of I don't know if you call it a win, to see a woman in such a high office in politics in our country, and then she comes out and sounds really goofy all the time, and I feel like it's not a good look for women in politics.
That is a bigger issue. You're right, because what do we need? And listen, Laura Nauser was a friend of ours, former city councilwoman for a lot of years, and was a friend. She was here on the show for several years. I would always tell Laura, I think we do need more women in politics. And then Kamala Harris got elected, and that just kind of blew my whole theory out. But I think that is seriously something that we need more of. And not because it's not that we need more chicks in politics. It's just, I think... Women, I think women, you're more agreeable to work. Dudes...
We have better communication skills.
You have better communication skills, and us dudes don't. One of the most uncommunicative people in the world I know is a city councilman in Columbia. His name is Matt Pitzer. And that's not true. City Councilman Matt Pitzer is here. A lot of things going on. City of Columbia, budget, homelessness. Let's throw more money at the buses. Let's throw more of my money at the buses. In your mind, big time. Is homelessness and how we're dealing with that still a big thing?
Yeah, it's still a big discussion. We heard an update last night. Randy Cole from the Columbia Housing Authority has kind of, started to run point on a lot of this. And he does a great job. But yeah, he kind of gave us an update where he is in terms of some of the planning for the Opportunity Campus with VAC.
All right. Anything else exciting, like big in your mind?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know, exciting, but a lot of budget talk. We're kind of in that mode here. Last night, and then we've got 2 more meetings to have public hearings on the budget. Water rates is something that it's kind of been kind of a little bit of a contentious topic. Some pretty significant rate increases that have been proposed, and I'm trying to figure out if they're really necessary.
All right. City Councilman Matt Pitzer. Sounds like you need to tend to your dogs. We can hear them in the background. Hey, listen, by the way, how long?
They heard you. You got to fire it up.
That's why they're barking. How long was last night's City Council meeting? 5 hours?
We were done, I don't know, 12:30.
Wow. That's even by Columbia standards, marathon session. We appreciate you getting up early with us and hanging out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. It's interesting and here's the thing. There's a well-known national organization, and I had this conversation with them on Thursday, and I was asking them about if it's something I've been involved with in the past, getting involved with it again, and asked them, where's your funding coming from? Well, we have fundraisers and this and that, and according to this organization, they get some funding from the City of Columbia. The City of Columbia is pooling that money. And this is an organization that tries to potentially stem, issues with younger kids. Like, hey, you might be getting a little bit off track here. Let's do this and help you get on the back track so that at the end of the day, we don't have to do like the City of Columbia and throw all of your taxpayer dollars at homelessness. They're taking the money apparently away from this organization, and they're giving it to homeless. Blows me away. Marsh, and here's what I'm wondering, John, because Columbia, obviously, hey, let's put the homeless right there in downtown. That's been the brilliant leadership of city leaders in the past. Let's put them there in downtown. We spend all this money. Let's bring people to downtown, spend money, and let's also put the homeless people there, and let's put them in this fancy bus station. Now we got to spend money to fix it. Now we got to hire security. Blows me away, but I'm wondering when we talk, so Columbia is getting a reputation. Now, why do you think that we've had more and more homeless people, for example, in Columbia? No, man, when you're passing through, panhandlers, homeless people, 2 different things, by the way. But Columbia gets a reputation. People say, well, how come we get more and more? I see homeless people by the bus station and out there at 63 and 70, the big interchange. There's an encampment down there. Well, why are we seeing more and more homeless people over the past 2 years? Number one, Columbia is getting itself a wonderful reputation as an enclave for homeless people. But, John, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, I start to wonder, and Stephanie, you're an older woman in the city of Ashland. The next logical step, hey, let's hit up Ashland. Let's hit up Jefferson City. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I've done extensive work with homeless people over the years, won pretty prestigious awards for my work with homeless people. And that is maybe a humble brag, if I'm being honest.
I'm just glad you'll admit it.
Yeah. Really? I think people are hiring Uber. See, that's the thing. I'm not trying to even be funny here, but people are buying.
Usually when you say you're not even trying to be funny, you're trying to be funny.
It's the exact opposite. It's like when you tell, no, I ain't lying, or somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I'm being completely honest with you. Chances are,
no,
they're not being honest.
When in legal writing you use the word clearly, like if it was clear, you wouldn't have to say clearly, or we probably wouldn't be here. Yes.
Any buzz when you hang around town, John, that you're hearing regarding potential homelessness spreading its wings from the city of Columbia? Now, see, that's mean. I wasn't being mean or funny, Hannah. John. But no, I see what you're saying, and that's the thing. So, and let me ask you, and just be completely honest with us, John. Not as John, the 30-year journalist in Jefferson City who's covered state politics.
John, he's calling you old again. He likes to do that.
No. John, don't take it personally. Branden just doesn't like being the oldest person on the show. So anytime we've had somebody on the show that's older than him, he has to make fun of them to make himself feel better.
Backhanded humble brag, ain't the oldest dude on the show no more. But no, I want to be serious with you here for a second. You've been here forever. God, I'm not helping. Everybody knows who you are. Just as a person, as a human being, not as the legendary John Marsh, but when you see homeless people, be honest, what is your natural reaction? And here's the thing. Love the fact these private organizations, as a matter of fact, there was a church in this Jefferson City stuff last night related to parking. They're like, hey, we have people coming to our church, and we don't want them to have to pay. I'm talking, we don't want people to have to pay more. This is First United Methodist Church, who does great work here in the community, but we don't want people to have to pay extra for parking when they're coming to get services. So appreciate the private organizations that say, hey, we want to do something to help this. But when we have cities, government, any kind of government entity that's taking money away from me or away from this and giving it to that is flat out wrong. Coming up here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, by the way, rain likely for most of the area, coming to an end, about 2 inches of total accumulation. Today. No serious warnings in our immediate area. I hope you stay with us. Coming up 5 minutes from now, you know who I love on a national level? Senator John Kennedy.
He's my fave.
He's a Republican lawmaker, Louisiana. And last night he did like a 2-minute bit on Fox.
I saw him live at CPAC last year, and I laughed until I cried.
some politicians in Washington, D.C., not all of them, but some, care more about their problems than yours.
John Kennedy last night on Fox, Republican from Louisiana. He's not done, by the way. You got to hear the rest of what he said. And I love what he said. I was at a fundraiser last night for James Musgraves. He is running for State District 50, seat currently held by Sarah Walsh. And Representative Michael Hafner was there also, who reps an area in the mid-Missouri area. And he was talking about, he was giving kudos to Sarah Walsh, but he was talking about politicians, even here in Missouri. They go out and they campaign on this and that, and then they get behind the closed doors in the capital city and they do different things. And I love that because that was said last night at a Shakespeare's Pizza joint. Mr. Hafner said that. John Kennedy on a national level saying that. By the way, John Kennedy's not done with his set.
And the thing they want most in the world is to be reelected. Certain members of President Biden's own party are running from him because they think President Biden will hurt their reelection.
Which is true. We played audio earlier this morning. Democrat Representative Jamal Bowden from New York. He was asked on CNN, Jamal Bowman was asked, do you support the president running? And when you're asked that question, what do you say?
Of course, you say yes.
Yes, and he didn't say that. He was asked 3 times and never said that he supported it. There is somebody running for office in New York. She said, incidentally, when she was doing a newspaper interview and they were talking about it, and she says, off the record, I'm pretty sure Joe's not going to run. And the newspaper said, so, that's not how off the record works. You make an agreement ahead of time when you're talking with a journalist or somebody in the newspaper, TV, radio. You make that agreement ahead of time. There's off the record stuff. You don't just blurt it out in the middle of the interview. So the senator from Louisiana, he is right. There are people, and it's been happening for a while. I think Stacey Abrams in Georgia, who's running for office there, she was the first high-profile Democrat to kind of separate herself from Joe when Joe went to Georgia, and she's like, I'm getting my nails done. I can't be there. It's like that. Senator from Louisiana, still not done.
Now, why is that? In my judgment, President Biden has stepped on every rake in the yard. I don't mean to be unfair, but it's been cringeworthy.
I have never heard that. That dude has stepped on every rake in the yard.
I love it.
He has mismanaged Congress, mismanaged COVID, mismanaged crime, mismanaged the border, mismanaged Afghanistan, mismanaged the economy, mismanaged inflation.
And those are all facts, by the way. This isn't just a Republican railing on a very ineffective Democrat president. Those are all facts. Afghanistan, he messed that up, did that a year ago, killed one of our fellow Missourians. The inflation. Hannah and Stephanie, producer Hannah and Stephanie, what's happening right now today with inflation, Hannah's never seen it. Stephanie's never seen it. So the senator is accurate on all points.
And forfeited America's energy independence. Now, President Biden obviously disagrees with that. He says he's doing a swell job. And as evidence, he offers the opinions of experts like Kamala Harris and Prince Harry. But I don't think most Americans are persuaded. I don't think the American people hate President Biden. I certainly don't.
And I think I applaud him for saying it. It's not hate. It's really not. It's just pointing out facts and how it's affecting your pocketbook.
But I think a majority of the voters in our country at this juncture think he would be better off selling catheters on late night TV than serving as president of the United States.
And he did all that without a 2-drink minimum, man. I love it. On a state level, what's happening in the state's capital? Conservative Caucus is busting up one of their targets, Caleb Rowden. He's here at 8:10. His reaction coming up on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I thought the enthusiasm around voting, based off of not only the fiscal issues, but also the more emotional issues, was generate a larger voter turnout. Definitely need voters to get out, participate in the process, and engage sooner than later. That's the way I look at it. I'm shocked. I don't know what will keep voters at home, to be perfectly honest with you.
That is James Musgraves. He is candidate state rep 50th district seat currently held by Sarah Walsh. We got into a discussion last night, Shakespeare's Pizza Joint. They were doing a fundraiser, and we were talking about low voter. And I get it, the primaries, and we hope for bigger than in the general. But I still thought such a huge race. And James Musgraves, man, is 31 years in the military. You talk about service, and he wants to do more. And I'll tell you something really fascinating before we move on. Sarah Walsh, she got up, and there was a whole bunch of folks. Rep Michael Hafner was there, and you had Chuck Basie and Cherie Tolson Reich. And the other thing that was really cool is then you had just folks like me interested in knowing what's going on. And I bring that up because last night, Jefferson City Council meeting, there were some folks, specifically a guy who represents a church, Trevor Dancer. He's lead pastor at First United Methodist Church. He showed up, made his opinions known in front of a government body regarding parking rates. And what he said affected some of what happened. So I mentioned that, and these people that were showing up for this fundraiser last night, affecting change, getting involved. But Sarah Walsh was talking about, you know, what it's like to campaign behind the scenes. Sure, you get donations and stuff, and you get the yard signs, and you buy some advertisements, and you back, like, you know, Wake Up Mid-Missouri. But the door-to-door stuff every day of the week, from sun up to sundown, going out, knocking on doors, shaking hands. I mean, the amount of work that goes into that, just remarkable. Wake Up Mid-Missouri, welcome into the show. Stephanie Bell is here.
Good morning.
Legendary. I'm going to start using that word, Hannah, with everybody. Legendary. Because it makes me sound younger in my mind.
Oh, does it?
The legendary Brian Houseworth is here.
So good to see you, my friend.
That is producer Hannah.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. John Marsh is hanging out with us, too. State Senator Caleb Rowden. I want to see what your reaction is to this yesterday. So the conservative caucus, basically, they were kind of a thorn in the side of progress in the state Senate. Is that fair to it? That's what a lot of people thought, especially when it came to redistricting. Things like that. And then yesterday I was kind of stunned to get this email saying, and the conservative caucus, you had like Eigel, Onder, Rick Bratton, who ran unsuccessfully 4th Congressional District. You had these folks that were kind of...
Hoskins was
on there, Mike Moon. And it seemed to be, in my mind, Caleb Rowden, Senate Majority Leader from right here in mid-Missouri, seemed to be a constant target. And Senator Rowden, we welcome you in. Obviously, I don't want to bring you in so you can, not a victory lap, but I want to ask you this first before we get into how this is affecting people and how it affects us. What was your initial reaction when you saw this? Basically, they're saying, hey, we're extending an olive branch, we're moving forward. Now, whether or not I believe it might be a different story. But what was your initial reaction?
Well, first of all, I have to say Brian Houseworth actually is legendary. So.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Everybody else is just playing with house money.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I told these guys 4 years ago, people that remember the origins of the conservative caucus. It was after they ran against Dave and I, Senator Schatz and I, for those top 2 leadership posts. They were unsuccessful, and they started the conservative caucus. I met with them not long afterward, and I said, just look, this is a bad idea. You're just attaching arbitrary label to separate you from the rest of your Republican colleagues. It's a bad idea. I think, I'm glad finally yesterday they came around to my way of thinking on that. I mean, really honestly, I think the thing that I've always tried to impart and tried to live by is the fact that, we don't have to be attention seekers or chaos creators to get things done. I mean, the Senate's about relationships. That's why we've been able to pass a whole host of conservative things, over the last 4 years, tax cuts, a number of them, huge pro-life legislation, huge Second Amendment legislation, victories for family farms, pushing back against COVID tyranny, education reform, the whole thing. Like, I don't really think it's, from my perspective anyway, I'm not sure it's news that a group of Republicans just say they want to be Republicans again. So my thing has been, I've said it at press conferences, I've said it anywhere that anybody will listen, as long as there's someone who is willing to work with me, who's willing to respect the Senate, respect the people in the Senate, and wants to get stuff done, I'll work with anybody. And that's been my position from the beginning, and it's still my position today. I'm way more interested in making history than making headlines. So that's where I'm at, and I'm not sure anything yesterday changed a whole lot about hopefully what the next 2 years will look like.
Leader Rowden, we appreciate you joining us live. I read the release, and I don't want to put words in their mouths. I'm being very careful when I look at it. I think Branden's point, though, is correct. It is interesting because it did surprise me as well. But as I read that, they're vague. It's just there's a couple sentences there that are vague, but I want to get your take on it. But it seems to me that they're suggesting that we need new leadership in the top Republicans. I take it they're talking about pro tem and majority leader. That's my impression. Am I wrong that that's what they're saying in there? Because they're saying the conservative caucus basically did well. They knocked out Bill White down in Joplin, almost beat Bernscatter. That's kind of how I took it. Am I wrong on that?
Well, I think I don't think it's any secret that they want to be, that they want to have more power than they do. It's the reason why they've acted the way that they've acted for the last 4 years. I think if they want to be in leadership, they've either got to have friends. I think that's the thing that people lose sight of is the reason why, I've been in the post that I've been in, the reason why we've been successful in those endeavors, and the reason why I fully expect to be the next president of the Senate is because of those relationships. And so, again, I'm not discounting. I'm not going to judge their motives. I'm not going to judge, if there's any shenanigans going on by them doing what they're doing. If they want to work together, I want to work with them. That it's that plain and simple. But I do think that there have been enough people who have been burned by them and by their antics over the course of the last number of years that they've got some work to do. Now I think everybody deserves a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance if you can get it. And if they can salvage those relationships in a meaningful way, then I think they can have a seat at the table. So I'm an open book, and I'm not going to judge anybody's intentions or motives because I'm just not good at that. It's not my job. But I do think, as it relates to the caucus as a whole, I do think they've got some work to do. If they want this action to be taken seriously.
So, what can we expect coming up with special and veto session?
Well, it's a good question. We don't have a special session call quite yet from the governor. Obviously, he's been public about his meetings with various folks. Our Senate leadership team has met with him at least a couple of times, and I think he's interested in getting some of these ag credits taken care of. He's interested, obviously, in the tax cut that I think he's talked a lot about. We'll see. I'm going to wait and see the call. He can special session's a little bit different than regular session, obviously, and that the governor has a little more authority to kind of dictate where we can and can't go through that special session call. So until we see that, I'm going to be a little bit reserved as to how deep I dive in. But I think he's certainly right in that we've got a bunch of money. There's no doubt that with Biden's horrendous policies that have led to this inflation and led to everything costing more. The idea that we could give money back to taxpayers through real and long-term and permanent tax cuts is an idea that I absolutely agree with. As it is with anything else, you got to get the details right. You got to make sure that there's a little difference with Missouri than other states. It's really, really easy for us to cut. It's really, really hard because of Hancock and because of going back to the voters to undo a cut that's too substantive. So we just have to get that right. I think we can get that right. We have passed numerous tax cuts in the past that have these triggers that allow for the economic growth to kind of lead into the tax cut, which I think has been a very measured and sensible way to do it. So, we'll see. I'm hopeful we can, Republicans can be together. I certainly want to make sure that the ag community gets what they need, and if we can cut taxes for Missourians, I think that's a huge win.
All right, talking special legislative session, veto session, talking about reaction to the conservative caucus disbanding. State Senator Caleb Rowden joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see. I've not had a chance to meet Ben yet. I served with five out of the seven new incoming folks, and really feel like that group of folks, at least the folks that I know. So that would be Travis Fitzwater, Mary Elizabeth Coleman, Rusty Black, Curtis Trent, and somebody else that I'm missing. Anyway. That they've served in the House. Nick Schroer from St. Charles. They've served in the House. They know the legislative process. I think that's a group of folks who, the best I can tell, are really interested in getting stuff done. And so I think as long as we can continue with our track record of finding ways to get conservative things done, then I think that they're going to fit in well. I see that group of people, just based on what I know, as folks who are more interested in those conservative wins than they are just kind of chaos for its own sake. And so that's kind of a distinction. I've given plenty of examples over the course of time. Andrew Koenig is probably the best one, Eric Burleson as well, of guys who have been in that group, which I don't care if you're in that group or not, that have done things the right way, have built those relationships. Andrew Koenig passed the heartbeat bill, but he also passed Wayfair. He also passed, he passed huge, socially conservative things, but also did big, economic growth things for the state. And he did that because he has relationships. So you can be as conservative as you want and do the most conservative things that you want, but it's those relationships at the end of the day that make all the difference in the world. And so that's the distinction between some folks in that group who just haven't really been able to build those relationships on a solid foundation, and folks who have and who really get to kind of get the best of both worlds. So we'll see how that group comes in, but I think they're a good group. I think they'll do a lot of good things for the state and be good additions to the Senate.
State Senator Caleb Rowden, before we let you go, about 30 seconds, anything else that you would like to add to be of service to our friends here in Mid-Missouri this morning?
No, just congratulations on your expansion, and I'm in Jeff City enough that I'll probably get to hear y'all down there a few times. So congrats.
Well, we're all on behalf of Stephanie Bell and John Marsh. And that's weird and thank you for your time, Senator. I always think congrats on your expansion. And I look at my waistline, and that's how I react. Coming up, so we do this every morning. Morning Bell, 8:25. It is what this is. This is business news, but it's not and the stock market numbers are blah, blah, blah. It's business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. We're going to do that like 5 minutes from now. What leads off the Morning Bell today?
Well, we're going to keep rolling with What's Hot with Hannah. A new flavor coming your way. Yes. And Martha Stewart's getting in on the action.
All right, what's hot with Hannah? We do Good morning, 8:27. Time for the Morning Bell. And the Morning Bell is business news, but it's not. Most business news, frankly, is boring. And the stock market, blah, 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 blah.
You're wrong about this.
But the Morning Bell, my point is, the Morning Bell is business news, but it's got that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
So Hannah told us in What's Hot with Hannah, it's officially pumpkin spice season.
Yes.
And as you know, Martha Stewart does a lot of hanging out with Snoop Dogg these days.
Yes. Now that is cool.
Oh, no.
The pumpkin spice, as a 51-year-old dude, pumpkin spice ain't cool. Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg getting all cozy, that's cool.
So Martha Stewart wanted to bring consumers, she already has this line of products, but she wanted to bring consumers flavors they love. So she is dropping her pumpkin spice CBD wellness gummies.
There it is.
Right in time for fall.
CBD, not THC.
Yeah, but CBD. And so they've got her picture, her name on the outside. It's got pumpkin CBD wellness gummies, limited edition. Martha Stewart.
Martha, you just almost sound like. And are the gummies? Are they pumpkin shaped? By the way,
I assume they are. I don't know. I have not sampled them yet.
Stephanie, did you see maybe a year or so ago, Snoop and Martha collaborated on like a Bic lighter, and it had like a longer. Like the part that the flame actually came out was longer than a normal little pocket lighter. And all of the advertising for it was like, it's for candles and other stuff.
Well, I think there are some things that are definitely improved probably by pumpkin spice. We identified earlier.
Like weed?
Probably.
In this case.
Hopefully it smells better. I think the other thing, but like Hannah, you said, what was it? Cup of Noodles is doing pumpkin spice? No, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Remember, you guys made me eat a ranch flavored pickle right when I started. I think Branden needs a pumpkin spice taste test.
Ooh, I can stand by this.
I'll do a pumpkin spice
CBD.
Hey, by the way.
Veto.
Something to think about. 5 minutes from now, we're going to do some leftovers here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Martha Stewart spent more time in prison than Snoop Dogg. There goes your stereotypes.
folks with offices who wanted to see the turnover more regularly. In other words, some of the time limits in a downtown are generally geared toward parking turnover. That way it allows multiple customers to visit that same business during the day.
So that's on KOMU, Channel 8. That's with the Jefferson City Public Works Director, Matt Morash, talking about parking, one of the things that they covered last night, City Council meeting. It's amazing how big of an issue that is when it comes to parking. So coming up here, before we get into the Gary Nolan Show, coming up here a little bit after 9 o'clock, Gary Nolan Show, my dad's favorite show here on the radio station. True story. He's coming up. There's something that we do all the time, and we call it leftovers. And usually, and I'm telling you this, if you're a newer listener to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, the show, by the way, we live where you live, and that's right here in Mid-Missouri, and we work in Jefferson City. We play, and as a matter of fact, we're going to play in Jefferson City Thursday night.
Yeah, the big Thursday Night Live in downtown is coming up on Thursday night. It's on my calendar. So I'll go up to Sedalia for the stay. I'll go to work in downtown Jeff City, up to the fair in Sedalia, and then back down to downtown for an evening of fun.
And now that's the way you have to go anyway with the construction coming there at 63 and 54. If you're trying to get to Jefferson City from Columbia, they're going to reroute you. They're not going to reroute you through Sedalia, but you kind of get...
I think you're going to go up to that exit where the winery is and then come back down, which really isn't that far, but it is. I hate when I feel like I'm going like out of the way and then backtracking.
It's really not that far unless it affects you, because I look at the map and I'm like, oh, hey, that's not that bad. And then when I go to eat at the Grand Cafe, I'm like, oh man, I want to go there, but I got to go all the way. All of a sudden, now that it affects me directly, now it seems...
Oh, my parents are super excited. They live in Holt Summit, so they're like, hey, say hi when you have to swing back through town.
That's such a parent response to one of your issues.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. It's producer Hannah, John Marsh, Brian Hausworth, Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Who parks all the time. And parking, man, chat with some Mizzou employees and what they have to pay to park. And you talk about people that work and make, the local economy that's being pumped through Jefferson City and the parking that goes with it and that stuff. It's a lot sometimes.
Yeah, I was shocked to know how many people their employer doesn't cover their parking and how expensive, especially parking in and around Mizzou or at some other facilities, can be, and that you have to kind of come up with that out of pocket for your job. It's shocking.
And my name is Branden Rathert. Welcome to the show. If there's something we can do for you, you can reach out to us. Area code 573-874-9390. 573-874-9390. And we typically, one way or another, we respond every time you reach out and text us. We respond whether we share it on air. A lot of times we get distracted and we start texting and stuff. We kind of forget what we're doing. So please know when you text us, we'll respond. And if we don't respond, it means we just don't like you. That's not true. I'm kidding.
Seriously.
The other thing that you might, I'm facetious sometimes. Obviously, I don't mean it. 874-9390. Bill's in Jefferson City this morning. Bill, what can we do for you?
What's up, Wayne Complex?
I'm sorry, what's that? You broke up a little bit. What's that, Bill?
Nothing. Hey, so you guys talking about the moving around down there in Jeff City, and she didn't like to backtrack to get across the bridge. Well, as you're coming into Jeff City there in that last straight stretch, you know where that side farm is?
Yep.
Right across from that side farm is the ballparks. Jeff City Rec's got 4 softball fields there. There's an access road right there that if you make a right there, that takes you down through the old Cedar City.
Bill, you're not supposed to tell our secrets on air.
Well, that is closed to everybody except local traffic and you and myself.
Okay.
Bill, we dig your...
just gave away your secret.
We dig your... Hey, man, seriously, we appreciate your sense of humor, and we appreciate you being a part of and listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
I cannot believe that Stephanie Bell was trying to gatekeep that secret. Wow.
I need to get to work.
You'll see producer Hannah out on 63 whenever they supposedly start this project tomorrow. Hannah's going to be out there in orange holding up signs with the big arrow saying, Stephanie's secret back way into Jefferson City, this way. Leftovers, usually it's something we do. How is this, man? So we're new friends and already we're changing things up a little bit. But every day, before Gary Nolan comes on, we do something. It's just leftovers, things we didn't get to for one reason or another, but things that we still thought might be kind of worth mentioning. You got anything for leftovers this morning, Steph?
Apparently, we have another miracle dog. Isn't Missouri famous for like a bunch of dogs? We got Old Drum. We got the miracle dog who predicts like the future. What's his name? Jim the Wonder Dog.
Jim the Wonder Dog.
And we've got Branden Rathert.
Now we have this miracle dog that was missing for 2 months, and he was found alive inside a cave, of all places.
So this was kind of Perryville, Missouri. If you ever had, way down south on I-55, Perryville, south of St. Genevieve, before you get to southeast Missouri State, Cape Girardeau, there's a cave area. But this dude, and apparently him and his dog, they've been buds for a long time. The dog is 14 years old. So if you think about it in human years, that's like John Marsh age.
Really? You're so mean.
Okay, so...
You're mean.
No. Everybody that knows me know that that's love. John and I have been knowing each other, working together for 7 years. But to be honest, I probably should be a little bit careful because we know we have a lot of newer listeners into Wake Up Mid-Missouri and younger folks and people that love the legendary John Marsh. People going, man, did he... I promise... that's love. We tease the ones. It's like a roast on Comedy Central. You roast the ones you love, and I love John Marsh. But
you've been saying that you wanted a roast for your birthday, and you know who I'm looking forward to hearing from most? John Marsh.
But this guy and the dog was like 14 years old, man.
Yeah.
So they've been hanging out for a while, and the dog had this other dog, Bud, and apparently they took off. Well, it was like 2 months ago. 2 dogs take off. Only one dog comes back home, and the guy's like, hey, man, where's my dog? Where's my dog? Well, maybe he's just, hanging out after hours. You know how dogs can do. And then it got to be a couple days, and he starts reaching out on Facebook and talking to folks in the neighborhood. And finally, one day, this kid, he's like 14 years old, man. They're running around this little cave down there. And it's not like this tour. It's not like Merrimack Caverns, okay, or Cave of the Ozarks. It's not like that. It's just kind of this thing people know about. He's down there playing. He comes running back out of the cave and says, Dad, there's a dog. And Dad's like, you're full of it. Sure enough, this dog huddled up in the middle of the cave in the mud and cold. They were able to rescue the dog. I thought that was a really cool story. Also, leftovers. This is interesting. So, the passports that the FBI is saying, we're going back to the Trump raid. Merrick Garland said just the other day, we're going to be open and we want to, as a matter of fact.
The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt.
So we want to make all this stuff public and transparent to show you we're not going after Trump. And then yesterday, what did the feds in D.C. say? They say, well, some of this we're not going to. So they're backtracking. They're reimagining what their policy on openness is. And then Trump was saying, hey, and they took some of my passports. And then the feds are saying, we didn't take any passports. So kind of new this morning here in our leftovers, the FBI.
Yeah, they have them, and they're like, oops, sorry, we'll give them back.
These things are all true. Coming up, the Medicare nerd, Wendy Sprouse is going to be joining us. Some things that we need to know as we get ready for the upcoming AEP. That's coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning.
This could be the thing that really takes him down.
This could be it. George Conway on Trump. This could be the thing.
This could be the thing that really takes him down.
That's what they said about the raid, and then new developments this week. This
could be the thing that really takes him down.
Russian collusion, J6.
This could be the thing that really takes him down.
Do you realize how long we've been hearing that? Not just from George Conway, but from everybody else. It still wets the bed at night because Trump was ever president, and that's what they do. They wet the bed. This
could be the thing that really takes him down.
Every week. Seriously.
Are you sure it's not the fact that they got his passports? They're like, now we can't go anywhere. This is going to be it.
And so the new developments this morning, Trump was saying, hey, they took my passports, and the FBI said, no, we didn't. No.
Whoops, here they are back. Sorry.
And the
about
FBI saying, we didn't take them. And then behind their back, they're like, here you go. There you go.
Just kidding.
All right, kidding. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. It's Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth are here too. My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into it. I want to introduce you to Wendy Sprouse. A lot of folks know her. And just so you know, because Hannah has called me out a couple of times this morning for being mean, picking on, and I'm not picking on John Marsh. It's a thing of it's love. You know, you tease the ones you love, you roast the ones you love, and I do. I love John Marsh. I love, number one, I love his professionalism, and number two, if you ever get the chance to meet John Marsh, you know, he's just a cool cat.
His professionalism, despite you calling him old every 5 minutes.
I wasn't calling him old. Oh, by the way, do you want to know this here real quick from the national news outlets? Oh, my gosh. Just so you know, this is what constitutes breaking news from national news outlets.
Enough to set off my watch. Jill Biden's got COVID. How'd she? I mean, Joe had it forever, and then she never got it. Now she's got it.
I love it. And pretty soon, and Adam Kinzinger, he has a cold. Breaking news. Kamala Harris got a case of the upset tummies this morning. Breaking news. I want to introduce you to Wendy Sprouse. So I'm not making fun of her. This is just kind of the name that she has grown into. So since some of us are here listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning, some of us are new friends, I am not making fun of Wendy Sprouse. How did you get the name? And you're going to offer some help here before we get into the Gary Nolan show. How did you get the name, the Medicare Nerd?
Honestly, I was in a B&I group. And as I
Start
was in
over. Somebody didn't have your microphone on.
I was in a B&I group, and I would talk about Medicare at this place. And Nick, who works here at the station, he's like, "You're such a nerd about Medicare," and it just kind of kept evolving. And I'm like, He goes, "You should full on embrace this Medicare nerd because nobody likes to talk about Medicare as much as you." And I said, "Let's do it." And so he branded me the Medicare nerd.
And by the way, thank you to listener Chris, listener of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I don't mean to interrupt the Medicare nerd, but I got to bring in the pumpkin spice nerd over here.
That is me. Hello.
Hi.
She got a nice gift. Listener Chris brought her. Is it a book, or did he actually bring you pumpkin spice stuff?
It's a box of like the coffee pods, and it's pumpkin spice flavored.
How about that?
He said I could share or I could keep it to myself.
I can't wait till we all get together because when Gary Nolan's going to come in here in the next few minutes, and we're all going to sit around, and Gary's going to sit here in this very chair, and he's going to sit here and cross his legs, and me and him and Brian Hansen, Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, we're all in John Marsh. We're all going to sit here and have some pumpkin spiced stuff.
Who said I was sharing? Chris told me I didn't have to.
So Medicare stuff. So you got the name Medicare Nerd, but it shows you are passionate about it, and that is important. I don't know if you've ever tried to look at the Medicare stuff. Mind-boggling. Wendy explained it to us in a way that nobody else can. What do we need to know right now as it relates to Medicare?
Right now, what's the big things to know today? AEP is getting ready to start ramping up for AEP annual election period where you can make your plan changes for your Medicare Advantage or drug plans. The other thing I would say, the hot topic that I really have on the front of my mind are that people do not realize that if they don't buy a drug plan when they're 65, that they'll incur a penalty down the road. I've dealt with this with 2 different clients in the past month. So even though they turn 65, they buy a supplement, they have their A and B, the government says you have to buy a drug plan, or else when the day comes down the road 10 years from now or something, when you need a drug plan, you're going to get a penalty for the entire time back to when you didn't have it. And it's a monthly penalty, and there's only 2 ways to get rid of it. Qualify for Social Security, extra help, or die. Literally, that's the rule.
And a lot of folks don't know this, and that's what kind of where you guide people. And by the way, getting in touch with you, all this is free. You are the Medicare nerd. You do love doing this kind of stuff.
Had a lady come into my office yesterday. She saw me inside Columbia on Faces of Columbia. I couldn't personally help her, and she asked, "What do I owe you?" I said, "You don't owe me nothing." She said, "I have to pay you." I said, "Just pay me in referrals. Tell your friends that I was very helpful. I didn't come in here and talk you into something that you didn't need. I looked at what you had. It was the best that you could get. And that's what I'm here for."
Because it's not, and obviously there are reasons you do this, but it's people aren't somebody coming in and saying, "Hey, Wendy, what about my, I can do my updates. What about this penalty if I don't take a prescription plan?" They're not paying. They don't pay you. They don't come in. It's, charging,
There's no consultation fee.
It's
never.
nothing like that. How can we get in touch with you?
Either WendySprouseAgency.com or 573-292-NERD. So that's 573-292-6373.
You done went and got the number, 292-NERD.
I've committed, Brandon. I've got a number.
So I'm serious. So if you call Wendy at 573-292 NERD.
I love it. I love to nerd out when Brandon leaves and goes out of town, and I like to nerd out because he kind of gives me the eye roll whenever. But we can nerd out together. I love it.
Good.
Well, see, when I call it nerding out, it's just when people are smarter than me and they get into like the weeds on some stuff. That's my go-to. It's like, oh, you're just kind of nerding out. But what I'm usually trying to say, and you have done, as always, an excellent job, and Stephanie Bell always does an excellent job. I'm always like, hey, there's other stupid people like me. Sometimes you got to dumb it down for us and explain it to us like we're 2 years old. And that's kind of what we're doing here. 292-NERD. What the numbers?
6373.
Incidentally, 6373. 573-292-NERD. So you can call Wendy and she'll help you. And she's not charging you anything, man. Do you have to pay for something like that to get a personalized phone? I'm just curious.
No, I kept going to the AT&T store because my last name, 2777, you can spell Sprouse with the 777 prefix. So I started thinking about it. I've been trying to get that number for a long time because it'd just be an easy number. Call Sprouse. But then the 292-NERD, I just went into AT&T for about an hour, and we went through all the prefixes till we found one with nerd.
Love it.
Cool. Wendy Sprouse, Medicare nerd, 573-292-NERD. Thanks for your help. We appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Stephanie.
Gary Nolan Show's coming up next.